The Dead Daisies are back with a brand new release called Radiance, and we will talk with their great guitar player, Doug Aldrich, next, right here on CHRIS Akin Presents. It is CHRIS Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and you know that guy on the other side of me here. He is the fantastic guitarist of the Dead Daisies. You know him from about 50 other bands as well. He has been doing it for years and years and doing it as amazing as a guitarist can. He is out touring with Dead Daisies and promoting their upcoming release, Radiance, which comes out on September 30th. So here to talk all about the Dead Daisies and Radiance is the one, the only Mr. Doug Aldrich. Doug, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, Chris. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. And it's certainly great to talk about this excellent release that you guys have put out, man, or are putting out. Yeah. What a great record, man. It is just not to the Dead Daisies. And it's weird because it's not like you guys have ever done anything that wasn't good. But it's like it just continually grows and, you know, gets bigger and bigger and bigger. No?
Well, we had some good songs in the bag already, and then we wrote some really good ones in the end. We just do what you do. You try your best to make some songs you think people will like and that you like and that maybe would be fun to play live, and that's all we did. But I think it's a strong record. It's really good.
Absolutely. Now, Doug, listening to the record, to me as a fan, it sounds a little more cohesive than Holy Ground did. It you know, and not that felt disjointed or anything, but you know, no. This one just feels more like a band. You know, is that like the natural gelling as the band, or is it that you were just able to get together more than you were when you were putting together Holy Ground, or what?
I think a couple reasons. One, yeah, we had been, you know, we already toured together as a band. We had kind of, we came together pretty fast during Holy Ground, and it felt good, but it wasn't as like everybody knowing each other as well. So that helped. And also the addition of Brian Tichy made a big difference.
Sure.
Brian Tichy's, he's the best drummer out there. I mean, for me personally, there's nobody better. I've worked with, we've all, you know, Glenn would tell you, we've all worked with so many different drummers, like literally over the years, in doing sessions and little jams or whatever. And Brian it's just a great feel when you play with him, especially as a guitar player, because he plays guitar. So maybe that's part of it, but he definitely made it feel more cohesive.
Right on. Did it take a while or not any time at all for him and Glenn to kind of, you know how it goes, is the drummer and the bass player, if they're not jiving, then it ain't working. So how did it come instantly, or did it take a little time for them to find their footing with each other, or what?
No, I think basically Brian throws it down so good that it just makes it feel good for anybody playing with him. So it's like, I think Glenn was, you know, Glenn loves Brian's playing as well. And we had talked when we were putting songs together for the record. And then we talked about, man, Brian would be great on this. And we still had, you know, we were touring with Tommy Clefetos and stuff. And Tommy's a great drummer.
Sure.
But it was just a feel thing that we were looking for. And I think basically when it came down to, we were getting close to actually starting to write again, we thought, man, Brian would just be the perfect guy for this. So I think him and Glenn just hit it off from the get-go.
Right on. Now, Doug, for Radiance, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I'm sort of remembering out of Facebook, so it could be very inaccurate what I'm remembering. But did you guys not get together in like France or somewhere to put this thing together to write it?
That was the last album, Holy Ground.
Okay.
We
Okay.
did that. We went to the south of France, and we stayed at this studio that was incredible. It was like you could, it was like a chateau that it had a bunch of rooms, and everybody had their own room, and then there was a couple of chefs that would cook for you, and it was actually pretty inexpensive considering what you got. And then we'd record all day. It was awesome. But that was for Holy Ground. And then we got done at the end of 2019. It got mixed in the beginning of 2020, and then everything shut. So we put that on hold. And once we realized that, we were going to be out of commission for a little bit, we started to kind of like cherry pick some songs and release them. And we put out 2 or 3 songs prior to like the first proper single coming out. And that went through 2020, and then during that downtime is when Glenn and I started putting together some songs for Radiance.
Okay.
When we were all locked down. That's where we got our start for this album.
Okay.
Then we were touring last year in 21, and the album came out. We were trying to promote it. We're touring, and we had planned to start this year in Europe doing a tour, and it got pushed back. So that's when we kind of just did a 180 and decided, let's go in the studio. And that's when in January, that's when we started to keep writing. We had a good batch of songs already, but we wrote about 6 more.
Okay.
We recorded 13, and there's 10 on the album, but there's 3 more going to be coming out. So
excellent.
It'll be cool.
Very good, man. Well, dude, now you worked with Ben Gross again. Production wise, in what ways does he push you guys to get the best output out of you guys? Because I mean, you guys are all long-term season pros. I'm always surprised when guys that have been in the business this long bring in somebody outside to kind of focus it. It almost seems like, outsider looking in, it seems like you guys would have that focus anyway. You know what you're trying to get to.
Well, you do, and we did have some. Glenn and I had some pretty extensive demos that we were done that were really good. They were very raw, and it's a little nerve-wracking to turn that over to a producer and go, let's rip it apart and let's redo it, because let's face it, there's always some good moments when you just do something for the first time. But Ben is really good at that. He's really good at being respectful of the song and the musicians, but he also brings something. Like for example, the title track, he said, it was one of the first songs we demoed, song Radiance, and we were pretty set on that. And Ben said, I think we should try to work on the chorus a little bit, and try some different things. And I just want it to be working a little better for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I actually went away and came up with a chord progression, and Ben thought that was cool, and then Glenn okayed it, and it was all good. So little things, Ben brought out of us, he made us do it. So it's just good, man. He's really good at focusing everybody, and he's honest. So like if he says the chorus isn't there, then it's worth giving it a shot to see what we can do. Especially when you've got this demo in your head, you're not really thinking about changing anything.
Right. Right on. Well, yeah, for you specifically, and I'm always fascinated. You are one of these guys, and I'll put like George Lynch in this same category, and a few others, Joe Hoekstra, etc. You guys that are extremely, extremely active, and like for you got Dead Daisies, you got Revolution Saints, you've obviously done Whitesnake and Burning Rain and Dio and blah. You the unique thing I think about you is with all these different bands and 30 whatever albums or 40 albums that you've done, you're never one of these guys that plagiarizes yourself, at least on record. You do a great job of always continually finding new riffs, new leads. And I don't think you get enough credit for that because, you know, I mean, there's only so many that you can play.
No, thanks, Chris. I think you're being too kind, actually, because I'm a one-trick pony, man. I do one thing really good, and that, or not. I hope I do it really good. I do one thing, and I put my heart into it. And you know, to be honest, like a lot of these guys you mentioned, they do a lot of things at one time. They got this album coming out, and then they're doing this tour, and then they're doing that tour. Since Glenn joined the band, I basically stopped doing anything else. I've not done any tours or any albums. I'm not in Revolution Saints anymore. Actually, funny enough, Joel Hoekstra is going to do Revolution Saints. So that's exciting. Joel's a friend of mine and he's really great. But I just didn't want to, I wanted to focus 100% on what we were doing with Glenn and making that the best it could be. And I think that's been helpful, you know. As far as my career goes, yeah, I've done a lot of different, you know, Whitesnake, Dio, Lion, Bad Moon Rising, Burning Rain, Hurricane.
Yeah.
But I really think it's important for me to do one thing at a time, because if I get too you know, spread too thin, it's not as good. So I think that's one of the things that helps me with these last couple albums, just focusing on the Dead Daisies 1000%.
Sure. And what I was trying to get to though is like if you listen to Dead Daisies and you're playing specifically on Dead Daisies, you won't mistake it for anything else. I mean, you're playing with I'll just use Dio as an example. Now, obviously with Dio, you come in with kind of a mindset of what it's supposed to sound like, but your playing there doesn't sound like you're playing at all on Dead Daisies. It's a different style. You're kind of channeling more of that heavy rock style versus the more metallic style that you did with like Dio. You know, I think yeah, thanks.
I think that comes too from just age, you know, getting older and just deciding that, you know, I mean, there is some seriously heavy stuff on Radiance, but you're right. It's not metallic in the way that Dio maybe was.
Sure.
But I guess, you know, it's a matter of, you know, the songs that we're writing for this band, and then the producer has a big Ben's really got a big hand in the sound of the album. But if you listen to the solos, I mean, there's stuff on, if you listen to the solo of say for example Shine On, which is it's like the second single,
right?
It's got things that I've done through my entire career. You can hear it all the way back on a Lion album. I know these licks. Maybe it's just different because it's a different song. But I'm going back to, you know, lick number 3 of my catalog. You know, and
right.
But then for songs like Radiance, it just felt like it wanted to be more of a melodic, more of a vibe solo. It was just the riff is kind of very trancey. It's like, you know, put you in this trance. It's heavy. And then I don't feel like it's necessary to like throw in a bunch of fire when it's coming into this really trancey section. It just felt like it would be better to play to the song. And as I get older, that's more what I want to do.
Sure, definitely. Well, it definitely sounds fantastic. Now you mentioned Shine On, so why don't we do this? Why don't we take a little break and we'll play a piece of the video from Shine On so people can get a taste of it. What can you tell me about the video shoot to lead us into it?
We didn't really have anything to do with it because we were basically on tour and the song came out. We basically, I think they took some footage from backstage and from the stage. And I haven't seen it for a little while, so I have to recall, but I think they pieced that together and made it like a performance video.
Sure. Well, it's a cool video, so let's share it with everybody right now. This is Shine On. It is brand new stuff from the Dead Daisies, and we will be right back with Doug Aldrich. That was Shine On, brand new stuff from the Dead Daisies from the Radiance release, which is out on September the 30th. And joining us to talk all about it is the great Doug Aldrich. And Doug, with Dead Daisies, there's always a lot of moving parts in it. And obviously this time, Brian coming back to the band, yet another moving part.
Yeah.
For you, who's been in the band for a while now, how have you guys been able to maintain pretty much a cohesive sound? I mean, it's changed some, and obviously it's going to change from member to member, but the core sound has really kind of stayed the same. Is that just you and Loey keeping it together, or how does that work?
I mean, I'll be serious. I'll be super honest. David Loey he's the thread. He definitely, you know, when we were doing Holy Ground, I really noticed it because we had a different sound going with Glenn. Of course, he changed the singer, and that's a big thing. And so Glenn and Dino had finished their parts at that time. I put my guitar on next, and it sounded good. You know, I was like, yeah, this sounds really good. And I wasn't really thinking about it too much. But then when David got his parts on there, and then Ben put everything up a little bit just to do a little bit of a rough mix, I was like, damn, that's the sound. It's really Loey. You know, David is a very honest, innocent, you know, stylistically a lot of downstrokes. He's almost a punk rock guy in a sense, but that's more from the Australian rock side of it. Bands like, of course, AC/DC, Jimmy Barnes, and a band called the Angels, and Tattoo Rodeo. So David's super into that stuff, and that's, you know, like I can do something on my side of the speakers, some kind of a riff, and David comes in with the downstrokes and accents in his way, and it really sounds like the Daisies. Right, it's cool. You know, there was a time when I was working with Reb Beach where Reb and I were trying to, you know, make Whitesnake sound bluesy but still heavy, you know, but our styles are a little different. And at first we were both, I can speak for myself, I was a little bit like, we got to get this tighter together, like we got to make it sound a little tighter. But as the years went on, I realized the beauty of it is when you've got two different personalities on a record. So I really started to really appreciate Reb for what he did, and I just did my thing. And now it's the same with David. He does his thing, I do my thing. But I think, to answer your question back to the point, he's the thread that goes through all these records with all the twists and turns of different lead singers and different people, different drummers. He's kind of I gotta hand it to him. He's the thread.
Very good, man. Well, as well as playing, let's face it, having David, you know, kind of be the mastermind of this thing, it solves a problem that so many bands have had, you know, with a guy like him that has like a never-ending deep pocket. It keeps the financial issues that hurt a lot of bands away from you guys, you know, and you all have been in bands before, and lots of bands before. For you, what negative aspect is eliminated with Dead Daisies just because David and the organization that you guys can afford to do everything on the highest end and with the, you know, the best producers, the best artwork, flying private instead of commercial, you know, from city to city, you know? I'd imagine that all helps.
On the outside, Chris, it looks like it's a fine-tuned machine, and I have to admit, it does. A lot of times that we can navigate things because we have the ability to do that, but it's really not always the case. I mean, we have budgets we have to stick to, we have deadlines we have to stick to, and you know, you can spend a little more money here, but then you got to take it away. I mean, you can't. It's not open-ended. That's what people, you know. So we have to offset things. And as an example, of course, when you've got, let's say, you know, David is our record company. He's basically putting up money the same way that Geffen Records would put up money for a band that they believe in. But when I was working with Whitesnake, I would take a full on, you know, I would take like 8 cabinets, 4 heads, 10 guitars, all these pedals, basically just anything that I needed would go.
Sure.
And with the Dead Daisies, we can't, it's not smart to do that because, first of all, we have a stripped back crew. So I have to pick. I got to go, look, man, I got to get this down to 2 guitars, and then I'll carry one. And like, I can't be bringing everything that I own, and just because in case I might want it, because that tears into the budget. So
right.
we have, there's things, I mean, I know that's not a big deal, but like another example is, when I was in Whitesnake in Los Angeles where I live, I'd always have a hotel room because, the call for the gig might be different than what my schedule is, or I just want to focus. But I really, I offer to stay at home in my house when I'm in LA, always, never taking a hotel, because it all helps with the budget. And that's
sure.
So, but yeah, when it comes to flying private, that's a big expense. And
right.
We only do that. I actually prefer commercial because it's like you can just be yourself, and you can you're paying for it to be there. With the private thing, this is a luxury that I'm not used to, and I'm still not used to it. And David's kind enough to do it for us because he really does need to be mobile in case of some family business or
sure.
whatever. So, but he lets us go on short runs from, say, for example, Berlin to Leipzig, Germany. Maybe it's a 1 hour up, maybe it's a 40-minute flight. So we get to do that. But I feel like I'm in, his home. So it's not, it's a little
right.
bit, but yeah, the bottom line is that we're very lucky to have somebody that is willing to put a certain amount of money into this band and keep it moving. And one thing that did help was when we got over the summer, when some of us got COVID, me and David and a couple other guys got COVID. We just went to a hotel in the city we were in, and we stayed there. Whereas a lot of bands would have, so we canceled a couple shows. We lost that income. A lot of bands would have gone, you know what? We don't know when this is gonna. If this happens again, we're toast.
Right.
But David said, let's just wait it out. Let's test negative, and then we'll, hopefully we'll get through it. And
sure.
that was a luxury, because a lot of bands would have gone home.
Right on. Definitely. Now, Doug, last question I really got for you, and I'm just looking at the
Come
band.
on, Chris, I'm here for you, man. I'm here till the end. Whatever you need.
Well, I'm trying to keep you on time, but
I don't know. I think I got a little time. It's
all
okay.
right.
Whatever you want to do.
The question I have is, you got you in the band, you got Glenn in the band, Jalusik is there sometimes, you got Brian in the band. Who tells the best David Coverdale stories? Who has the best David Coverdale stories? You've all worked with them.
Well, we all have different stories, but I mean, look, man, David is like Glenn. These guys are treasures of the music of rock and roll, man. It's like they've earned ultimate respect from all of us. And there's always, we'll always joke around and do I can do a pretty good David Coverdale impersonation if I'm feeling it, but the main thing is that I learned a lot working with David. I was very blessed to write a bunch of music with him that he liked. And then he was, David with one of the things that I really liked about him is he's just very, in his world, passionate about things. And one of the best times of my life would be like creating a song with him. We would just, piece it together as a demo. I would put a little drum machine and bass and guitar, and he would sing something. But our demos sounded really good, and it was so exciting to have this little CD or MP3 of a new Whitesnake song that I knew was really cool, and nobody in the whole world knew it was going down, but me and him had it. And then at the end of the day, he'd be like, "All right, Douglas, let's go watch." He loved to watch westerns with me. With me anyway. We'd drink whiskey and a little bit of whiskey, and then we'd watch westerns like old Clint Eastwood and stuff. And it was just the best, man. It was so freaking cool. And it's the same now. Working with Glenn, working with Brian and David. We're in the studio. We've got a song like Radiance that's kind of different for us. It's like it's a little different kind of a song. and we put this thing together. We made some improvements on the song via Ben Gross, and it's like, I can't wait for people to hear this. So I'm very excited for people to hear the album.
Sure, no question, man. Well, just one last one.
All right.
With Coverdale, it's obviously he is, you know, he's announced that he's going to finally put Whitesnake to bed. You know, once they finally finish the touring, once everybody gets healthy and they finish the touring, is there any part of you? I'm not saying that you're unhappy at all with what you're doing. You're obviously not. But is there any part of you that wishes, you know, I wouldn't have minded being on that tour for the final run, because you did play a very important part in the band?
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. No, I think I think his musicians are perfect. Actually, I don't have any. Look, I want what's best for Whitesnake. I want what's best for David. I sincerely hope he will finish out his farewell tour, because people really want to see it, and he deserves to be able to go through the world and say goodbye properly, you know. So I hope he'll be able to do that. But no, look, man, the most important thing to me is I love playing guitar. It doesn't matter if it's for you or for the Dead Daisies or for my kids, whatever. I love it. And I feel grateful for it. But my time with Whitesnake came to an end at that point in 2014. And I wished him nothing but the best. We're still in contact.
Sure.
But he's got a great band. I mean, let's face it, Rev and Tommy and Joel, and now he's got Tanya on bass, which is amazing. And he's got Dino Julisik on one side, and he's got Michele on the other side playing keys and doing their thing. I'll tell you what I regret was we had some shows with them this summer where we were going to support them, and it got messed up because they got COVID, or not COVID, sorry. David had a sinus infection. He did not get COVID. But we were supposed to play with them, and I was so looking forward to just kicking back and watching the show. You know, that was really like, I was really excited about that, just sitting back and relaxing. And then the shows got canceled, unfortunately, so it didn't happen. But hopefully I'll get to see him, you know, later this year or next year.
Absolutely, man. Well, hopefully people get to see you this year as well with the band, the Dead Daisies. New album, Radiance, out on September the 30th. And Doug, I thought we would wrap this one up with Face Your Fears, the latest video, I believe, from you guys. So what can you tell me about this song to wrap it up?
Oh, well, that song is it's just a great, simple riff. Glenn started that off, and we finished it together, all of us in the studio. And that's got an interesting, I'll show you what it's got, Chris. Hang on a second. I guess I got my guitar.
I get a free concert today.
Well, it's basically oh wait. It's basically a thing on that song where I'm going.
Right.
And then it comes under the chords. And underneath it is this. So it's like a really simple guitar trick.
Sure.
But it works great, and Glenn really loved it. He was like, I go, I don't know, is that really cool? I don't know, maybe I could do something different or something. He goes, no, man, I love it. And so for Glenn to be all in on a really simple, almost goofy thing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave it with him. He likes it, so I'm gonna do it. So that's part of the song, and we hope you guys dig it. It's a very simple song, and I think lyrically it's important that that we, you know, walk through the fire and face our fears sometimes. You know, sometimes you can be held back so much by things in your world, and it just feels better once you just have the guts to just go, right, I'm going to deal with this right now. I don't care what happens. I'm at a low point right now, so bring it, whatever's going to happen. But then when you get through that fire, then you can start to rebuild your life, or rebuild your situation, or your job, or your relationship, whatever it is. So it's a song with a great message.
Excellent. Well, let's check it out right now. It is Face Your Fears. One more time, Radiance is the album, Dead Daisies is the band, September 30th is the date, and Doug Aldrich is the guitar player. Doug, thanks so much for joining us here on CHRIS AKIN Presents.
Thanks, Chris. We really appreciate it, man. All the best to you and your family, and look forward to seeing you down the road.
Absolutely, man.